Jaden Ivey showed why he can be a star in the NBA. We're going to break down the Pistons' loss to the Timberwolves and much more.
Lane, skies a jam. Dynamite dunk and the crowd loves it.
Welcome back to Pistons Intellect. I'm your host, Jack Kelly. You can follow me on Twitter at Jack_Kelly_313. And before we get into today's show, as always, if you're feeling so kind, please hit that subscribe button. As always, we continue to grow this channel and finding that I love sharing my thoughts with you guys and love having conversation with you guys. So let's continue to build this channel. But today, we're going to look at the Pistons' 117-124 loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are currently the number one seed in the West, and I believe have the second best record in the NBA. So coming off a victory over the Washington Wizards a couple of days ago in a game where both sides had just made a trade, both teams were depleted. And as much as I enjoyed the win, and I think a lot of fans kind of enjoyed the win, I think it was inevitable that tonight the Pistons were going to come back to reality a little bit in the sense of they're facing a real contending NBA team. And I got to be honest, I'll get to this game a little bit more towards the end of the show, but I honestly, there was a few things that frustrated me tonight, but just on the whole, I honestly couldn't really fault the effort. Felt like they were in this game pretty much from start to finish. Yes, they got down by double digits a couple of times, but they always fought back. And I'm going to start my first kind of segment talking about a guy who consistently kept the Pistons in the game and got them back into the game, and that was Jaden Ivey. And title of the episode is Jaden Ivey Can Be a Star. And like, I felt like, honestly, throughout this whole offseason and this season, that the Jaden Ivey we saw tonight is kind of the Jaden Ivey I envision and think he can get to on a consistent basis. And he finishes tonight with an equal career high 32 points, dishes the 6 assists and only 2 turnovers, as well as grabbing a steal, which has kind of become a bit of a staple of his game of late. Is either he's getting a couple of blocks or a steal and just kind of being disruptive. He shot 59% from the field, knocked down 4 of 6 threes, and he was a team high +8 or plus minus. He had a +8, and that stat's not always reflective of how the game goes when certain players are in, but I think tonight that might even undersell how much of an impact Jaden had. And I'm going to bring up some highlights here. And just on this, let me know if you guys enjoy me bringing these highlights up and kind of talking through a few things, because the stats were great with Jaden tonight. But when I talk about this is the version of Jaden, like the prime peak version of Jaden I believe he can get to as an offensive player, like some of these clips here, you're going to see why. And it was just the fluidity he played with. Once again here, really nice pick and roll rep, gets Conley on his back. I spoke about that in the last show. That was something I missed, and here just blows by Conley. Now, look, Mike Conley's old. He's past his prime, but just to see Jaden have the confidence to blow by him in semi-transition. Love this 1-2 play here between Ivey and Durant. I think those two might have the best chemistry out of any of the kind of duos that Durant runs with. Maybe even better than Cade. They look, and that's probably because they played the whole last season together. They've got a lot more reps than Cade and Durant, but yeah, they just have a really nice chemistry here. Just another blow by, and that was this tonight. He had the touch using the bank, and I really enjoyed watching that here. Once again, floater off the bank, off the backboard, high pick and roll. Once again, just too quick, too strong for Mike Conley. And look, as I said, Mike Conley's not the toughest on-ball defender anymore, but he's a veteran. He's not bad. Here, blows by Nickeil Alexander-Walker and finishes over Rudy Gobert. That's tough. And then here, beautiful defense, all eyes on him. He's the fastest guy in transition and hits Bojan in the corner for probably the most efficient shot you can get on this team. Here, Naz Reid forced to stay with Mike Muscala when he pops. And I'm just going to rewind this play because I absolutely love this play here. you're going to see, watch Muscala here. He ghost screens, runs up. Nas Reed has to stay with him, and watch the hesitation, and he catches Nikhil Alexander-Walker. Sorry, I'm just going to show this one more time because this was arguably my favorite play of the game. Just the patience here, through the legs, hesitation, bang, and going left. Not his favorite right. That was beautiful. Here, this might be the best defensive rep of Jaden's career. Just absolutely locks down Anthony Edwards and then hits the 3 in transition, and you could just tell that was good. He held the follow through. Sometimes he kicks his legs, but I really like that shot. Just felt good. That there is beautiful pull up. The footwork and everything on that was so smooth. And then here, love when Jaden's able to grab and go. Blows by Carl Anderson. And I should note, the Wolves are no slouch defensively. I feel like they're the best defense in the league, at least by advanced metrics. So for him to put up 32 tonight and play such a controlled game, I think was really impressive. And that's his final bucket of the game. And I think you saw tonight just the ultimate version of Jaden Ivey, making plays in transition, getting on the defensive glass and pushing it, hitting that pull-up mid-range, knocking down threes. I think 3 of his 4 threes were pull-ups. So if he can get that pull-up game going, it's deadly. I mean, you saw tonight with Anthony Edwards, what makes him so deadly is if he has that pull-up 3 going or that dribble pull-up going, the defense they're dead because you can't play up too high on him because he'll just blow by you. This is Anthony Edwards. And I think the same applies with Jaden in a bit of a lesser sense because he's a smaller body and probably not the vertical athlete that Anthony Edwards is. But Anthony Edwards tonight, there was a play where in transition, he just kind of dribbled it down at kind of half pace in semi-transition. And Killian was kind of in this no man's land because he didn't want to close out too hard on the 3-pointer. But because you don't want to open up a driving lane immediately for Ant. So Killian's in this no man's land and Ant just pulls up and hits a 3. Then next possession down, this didn't happen. But then if the same things happen, if Killian closes out, Ant can blow by and collapse defense, finish at the rim, make the pass. And I feel like Jaden's the same. So excellent game for Jaden. And to be honest, like I'm past the kind of, I don't want to say whinging because if you want to complain about and keep harping on about how stupid it was that Monty wasn't, giving Jaden more role, more minutes, that's completely fine. I'm just kind of done talking about it because it made no sense at the time and it kind of makes no sense to talk about it anymore because I don't think Monty Williams is going anywhere. And look, he's playing him now. It's sad it took the Cade Cunningham to go out with some form of injury for it to get to this point where he puts the ball in someone else's hand. But I think in the last 5 games, Jaden Ivey's well and truly shown he is deserving of much more reps. And I truly think the primary goal, like there's trade rumors, the Pistons are going to be involved in every trade rumor. Any player of note that's a veteran, that's a starter, that's a wing, that's had an all-star appearance, I can guarantee the Pistons are going to be in the rumors there. And DeJounte Murray seems to be a name floating around for the Pistons. I don't think it'll happen because I saw a report they're going to give up 2 first-round picks. But I think you would be a fool to give away Jaden Ivey after seeing this stretch in the context of how this season's looking. I think the Pistons need to invest in a wing more so than DeJounte Murray, who's a fine player in his own right. But, I mean, it didn't work with DeJounte and Trey. And I just don't see how it's going to work with Cade and DeJounte. If DeJounte clearly wants to be a point guard and needs the ball, like Ivey, I think gives you a bit of a different look and he's not going to cost you as much. And yeah, I just, as well as how good Ivey looked tonight, like Ivey's got much higher pedigree in my opinion. He was a top 5 pick. He's probably a better athlete than DeJounte. DeJounte is a really good player, but I don't really like that match. So I think the primary goal, honestly, should be you need to try and play Cade and Ivey as many minutes together as you can for the remainder of the season. And you need to figure out, because as good as Jaden has looked, and this is the frustrating thing, is it's hard to tell right now if Jaden's just found confidence because he's getting more role. getting more minutes, more burn, has more confidence, and that's why he's looking good? Or is he looking good because Cade's out of the lineup? I think it's the latter. He's just the former, sorry. He's got confidence and more of a role. But the frustrating thing is we still don't know through 40 games this season, can they play together? Because we haven't seen it. So that is the thing there that's really frustrating. And I mean, we're literally at the halfway mark. I think that was the Pistons' 41st game. Number one goal, or it has to be in the top three, is figure out if Ivy and Cade can work. Because if it doesn't, I still think Cade's a better player. Maybe you move on from Ivy in the offseason. I don't think I'd like to see that. But if we get through the remainder of the season and they play a bulk of minutes together and it just doesn't seem to work, then hey, maybe you need to pair Cade with a more defensive-minded off-ball player to make this backcourt work. I'd be cool with that. As much as it would hurt me to trade Jaden Ivey, at least you know it's probably not going to work. Maybe you see enough to go, okay, we're going to try this next season up into the trade deadline. I just think you need to give this some serious run for the last couple of months of the season because the season's lost. Like trading Jaden Ivey, I think you need to figure out what those two have. So enough on that. Excellent game from Jaden. Arguably my favorite game I've ever seen him play. So excellent game from him. Number 2, Mike Muscala. He debuted tonight. He was solid. He didn't score. I think he was, I'll pull the stats up here. I think he was 0 of 3 from downtown. Look, he hasn't been shooting the ball well from 3 this season, but I think the thing that stood out tonight was he somehow finishes the game in 15 minutes with a +6 after scoring 0 points. And once again, I think that was reflective of how the team looked when he was on the floor. Yes, he got held off a couple of times by Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns because they're just massive, massive guys. But I think in his minutes, playing him as the 5-man and having him on the 3-point line, I mean, I showed you in a clip before there, Naz Reid in a pick and roll with Ivy and Muscala has to go out to perimeter to guard a popping Muscala, which opens up a driving lane. That might have helped the most, if any part in this roster, Ausar Thompson. Ausar played tonight. He played 22 minutes, so a little bit less than I'd like, but he finished with 7 points, 9 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block, 3 offensive boards. And look, he had 2 wide open corner threes I wasn't a big fan of, but felt like he played all of Muscala's 15 minutes was shared with Ausar Thompson on the floor. And that's a way you can use Ausar because if Ausar's your really true only non-shoot on the floor and you have Muscala at the 5, Ausar can be roaming around in the middle. He can crash your offensive glass like he did tonight. He can be in the dunker spot. He can make plays off the bounce and drive because there's not another center in there just lumbering around in front of him. And I think, I just think that is the way to go from now on. And I applaud Monty Williams for that move to put Muscala in and immediately give James Wiseman 0 minutes because it feels like that maneuver there. Yes, you're getting a veteran 5 in. And I think Muscala showed a little bit defensively that like you would expect from a veteran, which this team has lacked a ton of. He's the one who actually came over and blocked that Ant Edwards shot on that really good Jaden Ivey defensive possession. He provided the help there. And just small things like that, it really stood out tonight. So love that Monty put him in there immediately. And look, I think the Pistons didn't win tonight. They still gave up 124 odd points. So look, I don't think we're going to get many really solid games this season. Clearly we're not. So I think tonight was a solid game. And I think Muscala having that extra veteran presence out there with Alec Burks and Boyan really showed up. And I'll be interested to see how Monty continues to play Muscala and if that means Wiseman doesn't get minutes. Because even when they had Muscala at the 5 and Stu at the 4, it just works better than Stu and Wiseman, clearly. So really big tick there for Muscala's debut. Danilo Gallinari didn't actually get any minutes tonight. And yeah, that'll be something to monitor. He's 35 years old. He's coming off an injury. I know he's played games this year, but I'm really not expecting much from Danilo unless he sort of checks in and is not missing, is really hot. I feel like he's going to play very limited minutes unless he's on fire from 3-point line or he's making a ton of shots. So Yeah, really solid there, and I hope we continue to see Muscala and Ausar together because I think that can really work out and help Ausar's development. Now, the Timberwolves were too big and too good is the final thing I want to touch on. And I think, like I said, the Pistons had great energy tonight, great effort for the most part. And I think the Timberwolves, honestly, I think they showed you why. I know they got off to a really hot start and they've been faltering a bit of late. Not their offense has been shaky of late, and the defense hasn't been as exceptional as it was to open the season. But I think it's pretty obvious you can see why they're a title contender and the number one seed in the West. They've just got so many options. Whether it's their two bigs in Rudy Gobert and Karl Towns, they've just always got huge bodies. They got Jaden McDaniels. Ant Edwards is just a monster. He had that ridiculous dunk. Mike Conley, I know his defense isn't the best anymore, but he just gives you an efficient 10 points, 5 assists, and little to no turnovers. Coming off the bench, they have the likes of Kyle Anderson, slow-mo, 4 points, 9 assists off the bench. Naz Reid tonight, 9 points, 3 steals off the bench. Even guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's a young guy still trying to find his way in the league. He just gives you 7 points on efficient shooting in 23 minutes. They just got a lot of options. And you really see how a team like that, just how far away the Pistons are. Like, there's a stretch there where, if Ant Edwards was taking over, Karl Anthony Towns just shows you how skilled he is, like just knocking down threes. And like I said, they were just too big. Jalen Duren tried his best. I feel like his lack of boxing out got exposed sometimes, but he's also boxing out at times. So he finished with 16-11, but yeah, trying to handle Cat and Gobert, that's a huge task. And I mean, the Timberwolves outscored the Pistons 64-50 in the paint tonight. The rebounding battle was pretty even, but it felt like the Timberwolves just got those. I don't know, it's a bit of like a saying and that kind of thing, but it just felt like the Timberwolves got those rebounds that mattered when the game was there to be won. The one thing I want to touch on negative was just, this is probably the one down spot for me in the game. And towards the end of the third, Monty goes to his dreaded all bench lineup. And when Sasa checked in for Ivy with around 3 minutes to play in the third, the Pistons were down 93-90. With Sasa in, he joined Burks, Ausar, Knox, and Muscala. And I know it's gave them some praise, but that lineup really struggled. The lack of kind of playmaking, ball handling was really obvious. And yeah, by the time Ivy and Durant checked back in at the 10-minute mark, so this is only 5 minutes of game time later, the Pistons were down 106-92. They did get it back to around, I think, 6 points at one stage in the fourth, but that was kind of the stretch that really, the Pistons already got down by double digits a couple of times, but that all bench lineup kind of was a straw that broke the camel's back. And yeah, it's a tricky one because maybe, like, I still believe in Sasa. I know some people aren't happy with that pick, but he's here now, and I still think he can be a really good third guard or backup guard off the bench one day. But yeah, his lack of kind of playmaking ability to set up the offense is kind of showing of late. So especially when he's not hitting his shots as efficiently. So that there was the one negative for me. Nothing new, all bench lineups. I don't continue to not really understand why we see those on a team this poor, but is what it is. That's going to do it for today's show, guys. Appreciate everyone joining in, everyone who's subscribed lately and continues to support the show. I should be back to review the Bucks game, which is not until Saturday afternoon. So hopefully Cade's back. But until that game, go Pistons.